Welcome to Illuminating Catholics, podcast of the Diocese of Sioux City. I'm Dawn Prosser, Director of Communications for the Diocese. Together with Carmen Bauer of the Faith Formation Office, we will shed light upon topics of faith in the modern church. Our guests include Catholic clergy, religious sisters, and other experts in their fields to help us understand what's happening in the church today. We will explore issues, even the tough ones, and to find answers to common questions about Catholicism. Thank you for joining us for today's Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church.
Welcome back to the Illuminating Catholics podcast. I'm Carmen Bauer, the Director of Faith Formation.
And I'm Dawn Prosser. I am Director of Communications for the Diocese.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. And thanks to technology, we have Molly Petersen, Principal of Danbury Catholic School, here with us for today's podcast. She's going to break down the Msgr Lafferty Tuition Foundation, or you might have heard MLTF, and why it remains relevant to our Catholic schools. So welcome, Molly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for joining us during such a busy time of the year.
Yeah.
Yes, we understand that you've got your teachers back because we're recording this a little bit sooner than we're going to drop it, so you're probably in high gear out in Danbury.
We are, yeah. Everybody's back, and it's awesome to see everybody visiting and getting to know each other. We have some new staff, and so we've had lots of meetings and a building project, so we've got some construction going on, and it's busy, but that's okay.
Exciting. First of the year is always great. So we talk about MLTF at the diocese and the schools all the time, but I'm sure there's people listening that either aren't sure what MLTF is, or they've never heard about it, or they've heard, just wonder. So can you give us like an elevator speech, in a nutshell, what is the Msgr Lafferty Tuition Foundation?
So the Msgr Lafferty Tuition Foundation was named after one of the superintendents from the diocese from in the past, and he had worked really hard, even at the state level, trying to break down financial barriers for families who maybe couldn't afford Catholic school or just needed a little bit of help with their tuition. And so people can make donations to this, and then families can apply to qualify for these scholarships or grants through the MLTF.
It's a wonderful program. So you mentioned that people can contribute toward that. So, with you being principal, you kind of do a little bit of everything there in Danbury. So how are the funds raised? How does that come together? And what are the benefits that your donors receive from participating in this?
So anybody in Iowa can donate. You can donate as an individual, but otherwise also like S corporations, C corporations, and LLCs can make donations as well. And they can make their donation to the organization either online, or they can mail in a donation. We have people that stop at the school and pick up an application, and then they mail that into the diocese, or we can mail it for them. You can also make donations of like stocks, grains, mutual funds, things like that. And then for the donors, they receive a 75% tax credit back for their Iowa taxes. So that's definitely a benefit for them. And the diocese website has a chart that can explain it way better than I can on kind of like, if you donate this much and here's your income, then this is what how it would play out for you with your taxes. And so the diocese website has a lot of good information on that.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes, so if people want to go in and check that out. But I'm just hazarding a guess that someone in the Danbury area would be more than welcome to stop in at the school and grab you and say, hey.
Absolutely, yeah. And everybody, we're happy to answer any questions. Everybody's welcome to stop in and ask. And I think that it's really great that they can choose. So a donor can choose what school they would like this to go to. So they can choose that it would go to families from Danbury Catholic or from Fort Dodge, or you can divide it up between different schools even. If a husband went to Danbury Catholic and their wife had gone to Bishop Heelan, then they can split it between the two, or however they want that divided up.
I forgot about that. That is kind of nice with divided families, we'll say. And I'm guessing you probably have people that maybe are alumni of Danbury Catholic, maybe from, not in Danbury or somewhere else, that you probably hear from, I'm guessing.
Yes, and I love when they get the donations, especially the online ones, because everything will get mailed to the diocese. And then they'll send me a note. I'll get an email and it say, you got a donation from this person, and here's a note that they put in there. And they'll say, I love my time at Danbury Catholic, and I remember, Sister so-and-so, or I remember this activity we did. And so it's really great that, that they're still thinking of us. And I love to read those notes from our donors.
I'll bet that probably makes your day. Probably makes your day.
Definitely.
So they're obviously supporting school choice because this is a big help to your families to have extra dollars, and we can talk about that in just a second. So who's eligible? You don't have to be a Danbury Catholic alum. So who is eligible to participate and contribute?
So the donations can be made by anybody. We have alumni that donate. We have just people from town that donate. We've actually had grandparents that will donate while their grandkids are in school. So that's a great way for them to be able to contribute without just handing over the money, or paying the tuition bill themselves. And so we have quite a few. And like I said, it can be individual taxpayers, but it can be the LLCs, partnerships, the S corporations and C corporations can make donations as well. So lots of different people can donate. We have, like I said, community members, and there's just all kinds of people that we get donations from.
Well, and I had a quick question regarding the donations. What's kind of the financial, the amount of donation? What's the range? Is it only large sums of money, or do some people take advantage of the tax credit benefit even with smaller sums of money? Do you kind of have any idea of how those numbers tend to look?
It's kind of a wide range, and it really varies based on the person's ability. We have some people that will just donate $50 because they want to help, and maybe they're not as interested in getting a big tax credit. They just want to feel like, they're helping another family be able to afford a Catholic education. But we also have families that'll donate, $5,000 or $10,000 because they're needing those tax credits later on, when they get their taxes done. So there's such a wide variety. I mean, the average is much, kind of way in between there. The $50 and the $10,000 are not as common, but every little bit adds up to be such a blessing for our families.
I think back in the day when this first started, and I can't remember if it was 2004 or 2007, somewhere in the 2000s when this started, that there was like a cap of 1,000, and that went away a few years after that. But have you found that some people still think that that's the max they can give, or is that kind of gone away?
I haven't seen that this year, but there has been where they changed this also, but each school could only raise so much until way close to the end of the donation period, and they've taken that away as well. So then schools can gather up as many donations as they can from their supporters to be able to help that. So there have been some changes throughout the years, it sounds like, and I'm fairly new to it, but it sounds like, the changes are definitely for the better to make it really the most beneficial for everybody.
And helpful to you as well, as you're the one in charge of collecting that for Danbury. So what is the deadline to contribute for this year?
The deadline is December 31st. It's based on a calendar year. And so you just need to make your donation by the end of the calendar year to get that tax benefit for your taxes for that year.
So let's say I've got a nice chunk of change or just even a modest amount that I want to contribute. Should I just wait until closer to December to participate?
I would not wait. You can donate anytime throughout the year, and we actually started receiving donations again. Like in January, February, the donations started again. But the diocese, from my understanding, has a set amount that they can accept for this tuition foundation. And so at some point, if we would receive all of that amount already, then from my understanding, they would stop receiving donations for it. So I definitely would not recommend waiting till the last minute on it, because you don't want to not be eligible to donate for that calendar year if you're needing those tax benefits.
And that does happen. I did get a little cheat sheet here from Lexa Hawkins in the Development and Stewardship Office. So shout out to Lexa. It looks like the goal for 2025 is $3,740,132. So it's just a tad higher than last year, about 40,000 higher. So 3.74 million. It sounds like a lot, but when you've got 15 Catholic school systems in 24 counties, it can go fast. It can go fast. So again, thanks to Alexa for that amount. So there's a little bit of confusion that we've seen in recent years. Msgr Lafferty's been around for a while, the fund, and then the state passed the education savings accounts, and we're in the eligibility year where everyone is eligible for those funds. So there's been some confusion that if those dollars are available to families, then we don't really need to be pushing MLTF at all. So can you help us figure out why we still need MLTF?
So the MLTF is definitely still needed. The ESAs don't cover the whole tuition amount. And so schools will still, or parents will still have a gap that they'll still have to pay that tuition. And for some families, that's the barrier. Even though the ESA is covering a large portion of the tuition, still school might not be accessible to them if they don't have something to help them kind of close that gap to finish paying their tuition. And so this is definitely a program that will help those families. Definitely something that I encourage all of our families to fill out this year, just to help them, pay that extra.
Well, we'd hate for someone not to enroll their child in a Catholic school if they wanted to, just for some dollars that we would have available through this. So I echo your sentiments. Everybody, get your applications in.
Yeah, so after, the money is collected and, we are really blessed with so many generous people in our diocese, and it's always wonderful to see what we accomplish, coming together with, especially, through these funds. But once this is collected, can you walk us through, how do the families access these funds?
So the families will go to the diocese website. And I know our school has a link to that on our website. I imagine all of the schools will have a link to that. And then there will be a link from the diocese page to what's called TADS. They manage the application process. And it's, from my understanding, a third party that will manage all of that financial side, which when I was the parent at the Catholic school many years ago, I really appreciated that, because then I didn't need to provide the school or anybody within my small community any of my financial information. It went to this other company. They've been using this company for quite a while, probably since about the beginning of it, because around 2006 when it was started, that's when I would have been filling out the application. So it's been the same, it's a secure website. It's okay to fill that out and give them your information, but they just fill out the application on that TADS website. And then TADS uses a formula. The state actually sets up the information to determine who's eligible to receive the MLTF. And the TADS uses the information from the state to determine that eligibility.
And for people, who have Catholic schools in their area, we would definitely encourage them to go to their local school's website, because you're right, most of the time the schools will link right to that application. And I know my kids go to a Catholic school in the diocese, and after the start of the year, we start getting, those preparation emails for, TADS is coming up, and, so many of the principal development directors do a great job walking with the parents through that process at the local level. So thank you to all of you for what you do to help make that less daunting, as it is so helpful for parents and families to receive these funds. Now, with the qualification guidelines, is this something that do you encourage every family to apply, or are the qualification numbers so low or so high that it only hits a small window? How have you seen that play out?
I encourage all of our families at Danbury Catholic to go to the diocese website. And that's the one that, from our school website, it will link right to the diocese. But if they go to that website, there's going to be a chart there that will show them, based on this many people in your household, this would be the income eligibility. So I think that's a great starting point for families to look at, am I way over, or would I really qualify for this? Do I have the potential for qualifying for it? So I appreciate that that's there. So that's kind of where I have the families start, is just looking at that chart. And then if they think that they would qualify, then I encourage them to the link for the TADS application is right next to that. So
handy.
Awesome.
So if I'm not mistaken, Molly, isn't there English and a Spanish version of the application available?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So our parents that maybe would find Spanish more helpful to them than English, that is available. And I want to just point out, Carmen, this is your reminder to fill out your form.
Yes.
Do a little housekeeping here. Like, don't forget to fill out your form. So you've been working with families and donors, Molly, and are there any stories you want to share with us? What an impact this is making for your families, just to fill that gap and have these funds available?
Yeah, so last year was my first year as the principal, and we had a student that had attended here as a 4-year-old preschooler, which in the state of Iowa, 4-year-old preschool is covered. And then over the summer, I had kind of heard in town, just because it's a small town, I had heard that they had been sharing that they didn't think that they would be continuing their kiddo at Danbury Catholic. And so I called them to reach out and find out, is there something we can do to help? And they said, well, I just don't think that we're going to be able to afford Catholic schools next year. And so I said, well, we actually have, the ESA is available through the state of Iowa, but we also have this, this application you can fill out for some scholarships. Like, we've raised the money for our local families, and we really want our local families to be able to utilize this. And with the two sets of funds together, that was the reason that family was able to stay here. And they were so relieved because, they really appreciated the education that their child had been getting, the relationships they had been making with their friends and their teachers. And they said, we really felt bad that we were going to have to pull them out of the school. And I said, nope, we will make sure that, I can help you walk you through the process. I'll help you with whatever I can. But we do have, applications available for both of these. And so, yeah, it definitely does make a difference for the families. And I know there's been a lot of really positive feedback from the families. They really appreciate this.
That's a great success story. And had they not communicated with you, they could have really missed out on a wonderful opportunity, and now they're getting that great faith-centered quality academics at your school.
Yeah, and we end at 6th grade here, and we don't have a high school or middle school nearby that's Catholic, but we do have some students that some families will drive to Sioux City then for their middle school and high school, and the diocese applies the MLTF monies before the ESA monies. And so that allows those families to kind of bank the ESA money that isn't used towards tuition. They can use that then for other education expenses, including like tuition when they're older and in another school, or it can carry over to the following year. So I think that that's really helpful that we apply the MLTF money first, so that, the families are able to kind of bank up the ESA money.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a wonderful, and it's a good illustration that the funds are actually going to the families, going straight to the families. Yeah. So they've got that choice in a Catholic education if that's what they choose. And I do want to say, if you've only been there a year, you have got this MLTF stuff down pat. I'm
yes,
like, wow,
very impressive. Yeah,
she understands it, got the facts.
Well, I want to be able to explain it to the parents, but I also at one point was the parent filling it out. I didn't understand it quite as much back then, but I want to be able to be helpful to the families that need the help. So.
And and the donor side of things too. So
yep.
Kudos to you. So is there any final words you want to add about either the donors that are helping out or how important this program is to your school?
I would just like to share that this really is a great, if somebody's looking for a place to make a donation or looking for a way to support their local Catholic school, I think this is an amazing foundation, an amazing program to be able to donate to, because it really does go right to the families. The families are the ones that are truly benefiting from this, because this is really relieving some of their burdens with the tuition. So I think this is a fantastic program. I'm really thankful that it's available.
And it's helping the donor. They get that that 75% off of their Iowa tax liability. So it was always referred to as a win-win, but then if it's helping the school too, it's a triple win.
Yes, it definitely is, yeah.
So talk to your Catholic school. If there's a development director there, talk to them. Or in Molly's case, she's doing that too, as well as running the school. And then we will have that link in the show notes for that application so that people can apply for the funds. And we'll also put a link in for the donors if they want to look at that donation application for cash or appreciated assets such as stock, grain, mutual funds. I'm sure I forgot something.
Yes, and I think it's also just a reminder to families who maybe are on the fence of Catholic schools, don't hesitate to reach out to your school and see, what kind of funds are available to support your family and making that choice for Catholic education if it's something that you're desiring for your kids, because, there are lots of people who are not aware that, that we're able to take this money from our donors and apply it in this way. So I think this has been an encouragement for that as well. And thank you so much, Molly Petersen, for joining us today. Thank you for all of your good work down at Danbury Catholic and for sharing with us all of that information. I agree with Dawn. Very impressive how how well spoken you are on a program that the details to me might seem a little daunting to know the ins and outs of. It's so nice to hear how it benefits the families and the donors as well, and all of that, to strengthen our Catholic schools so we can continue using that as an avenue to evangelize our children and help raise them in the faith. And thank you to you, our listeners, for downloading this episode to learn more about the Msgr Lafferty Tuition Foundation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Illuminating Catholics, shedding light to understand the modern church. Follow us for more episodes on topics of the Catholic faith. For more diocesan news, visit lumenmedia.org.